for everyone. People will join as they need to, and we can just go ahead and get started because, as always, we have a lot of material to cover. And I'm really pleased that, to be hosting this webinar series for you all about teaching news literacy in the era of hyperpolarized media. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you because I've got lots to share on the screen. If I don't share my screen properly and you can't see what I'm looking at, then someone holler at me because I'll be more likely to see that than see an actual chat, okay? But I'm just going to go ahead and share my whole screen. And that's, oh, actually, I'm just going to share. Yeah, I kind of just want to share a window. Hold on. You know how that goes. Okay. Everybody's doing the Zoom. Okie dokie. Can you all see this teaching news literacy in the era of hyperpolarized media?
Yes.
Alrighty. Okay, so just want to start with a quick introduction. If you haven't met me before, my name is Vanessa Otero. I'm the founder and CEO of Adfontes Media. I made the original first version of the media bias chart in the run-up to the 2016 election because it was sort of distressing to me that people would share so many different kinds of really polarizing news sources that weren't necessarily very reliable. And I thought there might be a good way to demonstrate how news sources are different. And it just grew into a whole thing where people wanted more and more. So I founded this company, Adfontes Media, in February of 2018. And we've expanded and come up with new versions of the media bias chart that are not just created by me. They're created by a team of analysts. And the team is politically balanced, left, right, and center. To ask if you can mute yourself, that'd be great. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to mute everybody. So we got some background noise here. I'm gonna refrain from muting everybody if we can get that noise taken care of. So we've been operating as a company for a little over 2 years. And we've got a team of analysts that do our ratings for over 100 news sources. We have thousands of individual articles rated. They're all manually rated, and so it's a labor of love and a labor of labor. We're currently in the process of selecting a new cohort of analysts to add to our team to help us rate more news sources because there are thousands of news sources out there, and there's always there's always new content out there. We only get a small sample of it. It's a drop in the bucket compared to what's out there in the whole world, but we do our best, and there's a real need for it. As part of the growth of this company, we had to figure out how to provide this service for folks of rating the news, because people really like us to rate the news, and they always ask us, hey, can you rate this source or that source, or what do you think of this article? People are very interested in the kind of data that we're able to create on these news source ratings. They're useful for a lot of applications like academic studies and things of that nature. And so in order to figure out how to make our company more useful and make it sustainable for the long term, we decided to diversify into a couple of different things that really align with our mission. And one of those is this the CART news literacy platform. CART stands for Content Analysis Rating Tool. And it came out of this idea where we had our own analysts remotely across the country rating news articles, and we had to create a system for doing that, for inputting articles, for assigning them, for collecting all the scores, and for taking that data and putting it onto the media bias chart. And then at the same time, I noticed that in addition to the licensed prints of the media bias chart that we sell online and also give away for free to educators who request them, we've seen a lot of teachers use a media bias chart in classes. We've seen a lot of folks request to print it in textbooks. But what we started to notice as well is requests for the blank version of the media bias chart, because a really important classroom exercise people were discovering on their own was to have students rate news sources themselves. And that's a genius idea, because it's that's really the most important thing we can do. I mean, we can show people how we rate the news, but ultimately students and and everyone needs to be able to rate the news themselves. They need to be able to figure out the reliability and bias of news sources on their own. But it's kind of hard to do. There's a lot of steps to it, and it's just hard for people, especially students who are inexperienced with, reading political news. It's hard for them to know how to judge the reliability or bias of a whole news source, especially when a whole news source is tons and tons of different articles and shows. So we decided to turn our analyst ratings platform into something that teachers and students could use. So we created additional created additional videos and instructional materials to allow teachers and students to teach to learn how to rate news articles on their own classes. I'm gonna mute this. Hold on. I don't want to mute myself. Hold on. Sorry, I got to figure out how to do this. How do I mute all? Anybody know how to mute all? I've never done it. As I'm asking you to come off mute to do this.
If you're the host, you should be able to click on the arrow or right-click on the mute and mute all. But I don't know what your interface is.
I am. Okay. Ooh, I found it. All right. Bye for now. I'll unmute in a second. Okay. Okay. Oh, you can unmute yourself. Perfect. All right. Thanks all. Got a panel of Zoom experts because you're all teachers. Okay. So let me go back to sharing. All right, so that's how we came out with CART. So I wanted to have this webinar series because we have some online materials, and we have free trials of how to use our system, but there's really a lot to teaching news literacy, especially right now in this what we call the era of hyperpolarized media. So here's what we're going to go over today, or the purpose really of this entire series. Okay, so teaching news literacy in the era of hyperpolarized media. This is a new challenge, and we're going to tackle exactly what's hard about teaching news literacy right now, and that's a couple of specific things. One, it's hard to keep up with news sources yourself and know what's most true and least biased, and especially if you're not sure about the state of the news yourself. It's hard to teach students how to be sure themselves. So it's it's a new challenge. Lots of new news sources. There's always going to be more news sources, and you want to be able to feel comfortable teaching students about sources that you may have never seen before yourself. Secondly, the other reason it's hard to teach news literacy right now is that it's when you're teaching about unreliable and biased news, it inherently involves bringing up difficult political topics. And that's difficult because the topics themselves require you to have political knowledge and require you to handle really sensitive and personal issues. So in the next 6 weeks, in this series, we're going to talk about abortion, guns, race, immigration, the LGBT community, coronavirus, and Trump. And that is just a lot of polarizing stuff. So the whole point of this webinar series is for you to get comfortable and confident teaching using current events. And the focus here is really on the analysis of real articles. We're going to talk about reliable articles, unreliable ones, left ones, right ones, and totally nutty ones as well. And during this series, I'm going to be walking through how we do these and how we assign these through our CART software platform specifically. But I know that the reality of schools and budgets is just that some people are not able to subscribe to our system. And so we don't, this webinar series is free. We wanted to make it free. We wanted to give value to people who want to teach this in their classes without having to, pay for our program. And after this series, you should still be able to do that with our free resources. The focus is on teaching the news literacy through the articles. That's the most important thing. And we'll show you our free resources, like the weekly articles that we post. and other videos that we make available so that you can still use these kind of similar exercises, even if you're not using, the software that has, it's just a bit more convenient to do through there. Okay, so the webinar series agenda for the next 6 weeks is we're going to do an overview of CART and our approach to teaching news literacy, sessions 2 and 3. We're going to go through real weekly articles, real examples for that particular news cycle. We don't know what it's going to be next week. This week is about the Supreme Court decision overturning the abortion law in Louisiana. So we're going to talk about determining reliability by looking at those articles. In sessions 4 and 5, we're going to talk about determining bias through current examples for those weeks' news cycles. And then session 6, we'll talk about implementing news literacy education in various types of curricula. I know we have educators from all across the spectrum in terms of grade level and subject matter. Some of you may be librarians, some of you may be high school teachers, middle school teachers, college teachers, post-grad, and or adult education instructors. And you some of you may have a lot of time to dedicate to the topic of news literacy, and some of you may just be trying to squeeze it in to another subject. I have a sense that for most folks, it's trying to squeeze it into another subject, and that's a big challenge, but this is so important. So we'll talk about ways that using our system, you can make it adaptable and flexible to what you need. All right? So let's talk about why content analysis. The title of our platform is Content Analysis Ratings Tool. And that is a method by which we analyze news sources at Fontes Media. And there are lots of other helpful approaches in media literacy and information literacy in general. I mean, news literacy is really a subset of media literacy and information literacy. It's kind of a Venn diagram, but it's a subset that's gotten a lot of attention lately because of the proliferation of all these unreliable and highly biased news sources, this polarizing junk news. And there are lots of approaches within media literacy. One approach that I love is learning about media literacy through making your own media, like making a documentary or or being in a journalism class. That's super helpful. If everybody took a journalism class in high school, most folks would know a little bit more about the news today, I think. But that's not what we're doing here. What we specifically focus on is the importance of being able to evaluate any piece of content. And the reason why is because there's always going to be new evolving types of content. There are always going to be news sources that you're unfamiliar with. So the skill of how to look at any one piece of content, whether it's a YouTube video or a link on Facebook, this is a necessary life skill in this digital age. And content analysis and going through this rigorous methodology, we believe in this approach because we think it's insufficient to just teach these 3 things that I have on the slide: shortcuts or heuristics, a few reliable sources, or ad hoc examples. So let me talk about what I mean by that. A lot of news literacy education will focus on shortcuts to be able to little clues that students can look for to tell if something is not accurate. Like, does this story have a byline? Or was this published recently on a recent date, or was this from 5 years ago or 10 years ago or something? What does the URL say? Is it a .com or a .org? What does that mean? Is it labeled news or opinion? And the reason these shortcuts or heuristics don't quite capture everything is because sometimes they mean something about an article, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes a piece with a byline is credible and sometimes it's not. Sometimes a piece without a byline is credible and sometimes it's not. So that shortcut's not necessarily very helpful. Your URLs, having something be a .org, that doesn't necessarily mean something's reliable or not either. So it's kind of hard to cover all these possible shortcuts to arrive at evaluation of reliability and bias. The other approach is just telling students, well, you need to have a few reliable sources that you trust, that you are familiar with, that you know. That is helpful. You know, it is helpful to know your local paper, to know big national papers, to know big news networks. But that by itself isn't going to cover it in all cases, because not all stories are covered by these sources. I mean, if you're looking to see whether a financial news story or an international news story is reliable, and it's not covered in your 5 or 10 go-to papers, you still need to be able to make a decision on whether something is reliable or not, right? The third thing that we feel is insufficient is ad hoc examples. So news literacy taught by ad hoc examples looks something like, this article is bad because it has these bad things in it. Like, this article is bad because it has bad punctuation and spelling. Or this article is bad because it has loaded language. Or this article is bad because it has a bad picture that doesn't match the topic. Or you Google reverse image search and found that it wasn't a matching picture. Or this article is bad because it contains this very easily disprovable fact, and there's a fact check about it. Okay. Again, same thing with the shortcuts and the heuristics. These examples aren't going to cover all the reasons why something can be more or less reliable, or why something can be more or less biased. So content analysis allows you to toss in any piece of content into our methodology and come up with a reasonable reliability and bias rating. Now, I will talk a lot about reasonableness and uncertainty, and being, not being 100% sure about things, but being, mostly sure or mostly unsure about things. And that's going to be a recurring thing that we're going to want to get comfortable with during this series. All right. I'm gonna check the chat box here just in case I am missing anything. Okie dokie. Okay, moving on. So what are we really teaching here when we're teaching content analysis? Three things. You're teaching critical thinking, you're teaching reading comprehension via close reading in particular, and you're teaching political knowledge via current events. Now, this reading comprehension via close reading, this is something close to my heart, and I think that the AP language and AP literature teachers are really going to dig this methodology, because that's what I loved. I was an English major, and that's my degree from UCLA, and I just loved looking very closely at the text, at the headlines, at the graphics, at the sentences, and what exactly is going on, and what words are doing, and what pictures are doing, and what punctuation is doing even. So, or what positioning of quotes is doing. We look at all these things very, very closely, and that's a super important skill for content analysis. You're also teaching political knowledge via current events. So, this is it's multitasking. This is going to be cross-disciplinary, no matter what you currently teach. I mean, if you teach a history class, if you normally teach current events, and you don't necessarily teach reading comprehension, political being able to detect reliability and bias in news articles really revolves around those two things: reading comprehension and political knowledge. These are both things that are lifelong skills. They take a long time to teach. Some people will never be good at either of them, but it's important. And the better students can be at these skills, the better they're going to be able to determine the reliability and bias of articles. So, getting buy-in from students on why is this subject important. Some of these articles students may find dense. They might find that they're really there's a lot of detail that they may not be interested in. They might not necessarily be interested in the political topic. They might not be interested in reading very closely. But there are really two main reasons that you can convey to your students about why it's important to do this kind of analysis of news content yourself and be able to determine reliability and bias yourself. One is because you don't want to be easily manipulated. And, you know, unfortunately, you see this online. I'm sure you observe this when you talk to folks on Facebook. The folks that are the worst readers and writers are at the greatest risk of being manipulated. So whenever somebody tries to make a point or make an argument in a discussion, especially when it's written, and you can really see this skill in Facebook comments and Facebook fights. Some people are not careful readers and they're not careful writers. Some people will just use, I mean, these are just all my pet peeves. Like, instead of just a question, like one question mark for a question, 6 question marks in a row, or like an ellipses is 3 dots that are spaced apart automatically, like when you enter them in Word. It's not like an arbitrary length number of dots. It's not like you can use 10 dots sometimes and in 18 dots sometimes, or 4 or 2. It means something as a punctuation mark. But if people don't know that, if people don't capitalize correctly, spell correctly, look, there are lots of reasons. I'm not saying everybody has to be the best speller. I know that's a weakness for some folks. I know some folks may misspell or write poorly due to learning disabilities, reading disabilities, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about folks who they know how to write, they're just not careful about it, and they don't dedicate the time and attention to it. And those folks also tend to not be very careful readers, and that makes them subject to manipulation, because some of the least reliable information out there and the most biased information out there has these clues, has these like grammar and punctuation clues in there that if they were able to pick up on it, would raise a red flag for them that maybe they should not rely on this source so much. Okay, so it's important to convey that to students, that the people who read and write the worst are the most at risk to manipulative written information. Okay. Secondly, it's the quality of the information that you ingest as a person, as a citizen, affects the quality of decisions for your life. Okay. So if you're not able to discern what information is good based on all the information that's out there, it's really going to ultimately affect you. Okay, and sometimes it won't affect you directly. You might have bad information that leads you to vote for a candidate that doesn't really doesn't really align with your interests. Okay, a more direct example is if you believe misinformation about coronavirus right now, that can really impact your health and the health of you and your loved ones, right? Like if you have bad information about how coronavirus spreads and the risks involved and what you can do to prevent it, and if you go around just believing misinformation about it, you can actually get sick and die, right? So it's all about quality of information and quality of decisions. And I know that not all students, especially young students, have a hard time with that kind of cause and effect. Like, because I mean, you all are teachers. You're trying to tell them, you need good grades in 7th grade because it's going to affect your, what happens in high school, and what happens in college, and what happens in your life and your job, right? Students don't always get that, but this is one way in which you can make that point. Okay, let's do a little overview of CART, the actual platform itself, and what's involved in it. I'm going to stop sharing here, and I'm going to share my. I'm going to share. Here we go. Okay. So hopefully you see a page that says CART Educator Materials. Yes. Okay. So in teaching students how to rate news sources, how we rate them at Adfontes Media, and place them on the media bias chart, we have a set of educator materials that walks students and you. It has materials like intro materials for you, a lesson plan guidelines for you, and then videos and texts for you and for your students. So in this, this is the back office that you get access to, and your students will have access to a very similar page. These instructional videos, they're usually 3 to 5 minutes long. Our longest one is 8 minutes, but it's a total of about 37 minutes of content that's designed to introduce students to the basics of how we evaluate various different factors for rating individual news sources. There's an introduction for students, and then there's 4 videos on how to rate reliability, because we divide reliability into 3 subfactors plus an overall factor. So those factors are expression, veracity, and headline and graphic, and we'll talk about these throughout the course. So there's 3 videos, like one for each of how to rate those. And then there's a video on how to rate reliability overall in view of these things. And then it also talks about some other considerations that you might have besides expression and veracity and the headline and graphic. For bias, it's a similar thing. We divide bias into 3 subcategories to evaluate independently. So where there's 4 videos, those subcategories are language, political position, and comparison. So each of these videos covers how to do that. There's also a video on how to rate other factors for bias and how to rate bias overall in view of those individual factors. We have even before we get to that, this video should actually be at the top, but we have a simplified version of the rating methodology as well. This can be a lot for students at first to get this granular on all the different reasons why news sources can be reliable or biased. For some students, just the concept that there are some news sources that are more reliable and less reliable, and some news sources that are more biased and less biased to each side. Sometimes just that concept alone is a revelation. So we want to get students to start thinking about that in general terms. So our simplified rating methodology is really kind of like a gut check, like a gut level rating. And this is what educators had been doing in our classrooms before we rolled this out with the blank version of the media bias chart. You're asking students, okay, where would you rate MSNBC and CNN and Fox News? It's not very scientific to ask them, or it's not very thorough to ask them how to rate that. They're just rating it based on their general experience, and that's okay. Can these videos be embedded into an LMS? Yes. So you can, we have the links themselves. They're all YouTube links. You can embed them into your Blackboard or your Google Classroom or what have you, and make them available there. And then we have all of these videos. The scripts for them are just in PDFs as well. So it's all the exact same material. There's additional, lesson plan ideas and, order of how to do things in here. And you can assign all these things as assignments, which is kind of helpful right now because I know I live with a high school teacher who's in the midst of, we're in Jefferson County, Colorado, and, it's kind of up in the air what school is going to look like in 6 weeks from now. And I'm sure that is the case for pretty much everyone here on the call. Some things are going to still be remote. So for your students who prefer video lessons, we've got those. For students who prefer written materials, we've got those, and you can just assign these. You can also go through them together in class. It's if you have the time to do that. Alrighty. Ooh, they're not captioned, but I will get them captioned. That's actually a pretty simple thing for us to do. We haven't done that yet. Thank you for that question. Okay. Let's go back to what else? So the overall setup of this is we put 6 articles into your CART platform, and I'll show you that CART platform in a second. Now, the reason we pick 6 articles is because it's kind of hard for you to do it yourself. You can put whatever articles you want to cover about whatever topics, just any URL for any news source, you can drop right into our educational system and have your students rate it. But we do that for you every week just so you don't have to spend the time doing that, because we take articles from across the spectrum, from left, right, top, bottom, about the same general news topic every week. So this week, or last week, it was about the LGBT civil rights case at the Supreme Court. This week is about the abortion case, the Louisiana abortion law at the Supreme Court. Before that, it was about the whole concept of defunding the police and how that was covered. The week before that was about vote by mail. So all of these, political, very polarizing topics, we go and select, and we scour the best and the absolute worst of the internet for you to find these treasures. And then our analysts rate them, and then your students can rate them. You don't have to rate them every week, but they're, depending on the time you have allotted for that, you can use it every week or not. So what this looks like for you, just a brief overview of some of the features. Let me share something new here. New share. Okay, so this is what the actual content analysis rating tool interface looks like. Hopefully y'all can see that. It says that at the top of the page, content analysis rating tool. And this top page right here, this top line that says Analyst Home, Progress, View Ratings on Chart and Student Materials, that's the view and the menu that your students will see. Your students are called analysts. And then the second line is what you see as a coordinator, as an educator. So you will actually get to see both the analyst menu and the coordinator menu. And I'm not going to go through all the features here, but basically, the most important features are going to be that you can add your students here. So you just go ahead and add an analyst, first name, last name, email address. We don't use or keep this information, so we're all compliant with all the privacy laws on that. We don't use our ratings. We don't use them publicly, anything like that. And you can also add them as a whole batch from a spreadsheet if you want. And then you can add articles, or all your articles that we put in there every week for you are in there. If you don't want them rated, you can just delete them out. And if you want to add any articles yourself, then you can just go to, let's see, Washington Post. Let's see. Here's an article about, here's an opinion article from the Washington Post. All right, so you just drop in the URL. You do need to use real emails because that's how they're going to log in and reset their passwords and things like that. Okay. All right, so now you just click on Add Article, and that'll show up in your list down here. Oh. All right. So this interface, I know it looks a little old school. We are planning on a user interface upgrade here in the next few weeks, but we're a small company, we're a startup, and let's see, the functionality on this works really well, but it's not as sleek as some more established companies. But one day very soon it will be. Yeah, you get to see. I'm going to show you a different screen with some more articles on it. All right. So here's my rating website. What this looks like when you want to rate an article. So here's one of the articles from this week. Okay, this will pop up in a ratings interface for your students, and you just click on the article here. It goes. I don't know if it is showing you my. Is it showing you the USA Today article here? You see that? Okay, yeah. So it just pops out in a different window. Student reads it, looks at the images. goes back to the rating website. And we'll cover this really in depth over the next few weeks. You can, these sliders here, you can you see this cart interface? Okay. This is where we rate the various different factors for expression, headline and graphic, and veracity that we discussed before, and then overall rating for reliability. Here's where we have sliders for rating left-right comparison factor, the language factor, the political position factor, and the bias and overall bias. Or they can just click on a spot on the chart to make their rating. Again, we'll go over this in a lot of detail over the next couple of weeks. But that's just generally how this system works, okay? Let me jump back to, okay. Let me cover a couple of topics, as this is just a very broad overview of how this system works. About how to introduce this topic in the first place. Again, going back to this whole idea that teaching the concept that different news sources have different levels of reliability and different levels of bias. It can be, again, a revelation to many students. And I always suggest starting off with a blank version of the media bias chart, okay? I suggest that from experience. I don't know if you guys have noticed, since you're all fans of media bias chart and may have posted it online sometimes, not everybody loves it. Some people actually don't like it at all and get super mad. We came out with a new version the other day and posted it last week, and it's got like 16,000 shares on the internet and lots and lots of comments. And, you know, people get very upset when their favorite news source that reinforces all their beliefs and makes them feel like a righteous and good person is not ranked very high. And they say, well, your ranking of such and such news source by itself just discredits this whole chart. You clearly don't know what you're talking about. And so at Fontes Media, as a group, we're a bunch of leftists and neoliberals and right-wing trolls and Russian operatives. Like, we're all of those things, depending on people's reality. So knowing that you're bringing a discussion of political bias into a class, right? And you have parents to deal with, and this can be really difficult. Just give you an example. I talked to a group who wanted to use our chart. They said, we're going to put on this news literacy seminar. It's going to be for teachers. It's in Oklahoma, and we're going to teach all about this. And I said, I suggest using the blank chart, and you should check out this chart rating tool, because they already said, this is a really politically diverse audience. Like, not everybody's going to agree with your chart. And I was like, you might want to start with, this leading with, we have a way where people and students can make their own decisions about where news sources fall, rather than just have us tell you where news sources fall. And they didn't listen, which is fine, because this cart is kind of complicated, and there's a lot to it. But they led with a chart. People immediately looked at it. A lot of folks, crossed their arms and said, like, I don't like where Fox News is. And then one of the presenters said something like, Fox is not even news; it's Fox Entertainment. So you shouldn't refer to it as a news source. You should refer to it as an entertainment source. And people got very upset. A lot of teachers walked out. They ran to a local paper, said, this is look at all the bias by the school district. School district had to apologize. I mean, it was this whole thing, right? So don't recommend starting out with Fox News is entertainment, which is kind of a thing that people like to say, especially if you're left leaning. Like folks have heard that on the internet out there. It's not really true. It's not like Fox News has registered as an entertainment company such that they are allowed to be biased. Like, there's not really any restrictions on like what they call themselves and whether they call themselves news or entertainment. But when you bring up something like that, like the more the more you show your own bias, the more pushback you're likely to get. So this is all about having people determine for themselves, right? People don't all agree with the media bias chart by design. Literally, not one person, including myself, agrees with all of the placements of every source on the chart. And here's why. It's because it's not designed to reflect my reality. And it's not designed to reflect the reality of any one person. There are 330 million American realities, 330 million opinions on where these sources should be. And it's intended to reflect a composite reality of multiple reasonable, well-informed analysts. That's what it is. So it's a reality that exists out there, but not for any one person. And the other reason that no one will agree is because everyone's sample is different. If you are on the right and you get a lot of your news, if you get 60% of your news from Fox News and then 20% from Breitbart and then the rest of it from New York Times, USA Today, or what have you, and then a few fringy sites, you're going to have a very different sample size of what MSNBC is really all about, what Huffington Post is all about. Because every time you see something from Huffington Post or MSNBC, it's because someone that you like is making fun of that site. Okay, same thing on the right. Everyone loves to hate OAN right now because John Oliver did a thing on OAN, and there's a few high profile things that they did that were they're widely bashed in the media for being inaccurate. And that's true, that stuff does exist, but if you OAN has been like that for many years. It's had a mix of okay content and then some really crazy garbage every once in a while, just a mix, right? And so but people's sample sizes are really different. I'll get some methodology questions in a little bit because I am going to leave time for questions, but I'm gonna end with a discussion of the important things you can do in discussing difficult political topics. Okay, I'm going to go back to my slides here. Okay, all right. So in general. Extreme polarization. So the nature of extreme polarization is that these really polarizing news sources have a lot of examples and are really based on denying the experience of others, the real lived experience of others on the other side, and even dehumanizing them. And these are real human topics with real human implications, and that's why they're so polarizing. So it's important to start any difficult topic by reminding students about the possibility that their classmates may or may not have been personally affected by it. So you're discussing something difficult like abortion, it's good to remind students, people in this classroom have probably been affected by abortion. They may have had one. Their mother may have had one. They may have had a girlfriend who had one and it broke their heart. They may have needed, they knew somebody who needed to have one and couldn't get one. All these are real things that exist and happen. When it comes to race or immigration, these kind of human experiences affect people really dearly in their classes. They may be an undocumented immigrant. They may have faced police brutality. Their parent may be a police officer, right? There are all these real lived experiences. And when you can come together and when you can defeat polarization and when real understanding happens is when you can humanize things, and when you can hear the real lived experiences of other folks who are different from you. So that's something that's great that can come out of a class, that can come out of this discussion of really difficult political topics, because students may want to share those things that may organically happen. And that can create a real difference. But it's important to remind students about that. The other things that you'll need to do when teaching these difficult political topics is you're going to need to be prepared for two things. You're going to need to be able to let them know generally what the left and right political positions of a certain topic are, because not all students will understand that, okay? Especially when it comes to something like government regulations. What is the right like about government or not like about government regulations, and what does the left say about it? You also need to be familiar with right and left terminology. Students may not, pro-choice and pro-life, those may be a little bit more familiar, but things like estate tax and death tax may not be familiar. Things like religious liberty and discrimination, those kind of terms may not be familiar. So need to be prepared to bring those to the table depending on the topic, and we'll talk about those over the next few weeks. The last couple things, you and your students don't have a responsibility to be neutral with regard to how you address these topics, but you do have a responsibility to be fair. So there is it's like a judge. You know, we ask a judge to be fair as possible, but at the end of the day, the judge has to make a call based on all the available facts. So you can say what you believe is right and wrong in view of the facts, the things that you study and things that have been presented. So just keep that distinction in mind between the need, because you're not, just because there are two sides to a thing and two sides exist doesn't mean both sides are equally right, correct? So be fair, you don't have to be neutral. You get to be a judge. And then get your students comfortable with ambiguity, the possibility of being wrong, and the fact that you can't know everything. And if that's hard for you, you personally, you know, you're not alone. It's hard for everybody. So, all right, I only went 3 minutes over my promised time, and I have time for questions. Yay! Okay, I'm gonna let you guys unmute yourself. I'm gonna take a look at questions here, but if you got one, go ahead and shout it out. All right, I'm gonna take some questions that I see here. Okay. Oh, somebody said, can we see the cart before purchasing, subscribing? Yes, we have free trials available just right on our website, 30-day free trial. You do have to enter a credit card. If that is just because of our like payment processing system, if that like will cause some heartburn for you, just email us and we can like manually set you up on a free trial. We just have to like do that one off of our site. And yeah, we will be able to get a certificate showing participation in this webinar series for personal development and you know, CLEs, or CLEs are what they call it for lawyers, CEUs, and we will make those available for you know, according to the number of hours that you've completed. So if you do all 6, it'll be 6. If you just do 1, it'll be 1 hour. Okay. All right, let's see some questions here. Feel free to shout them out too. I don't have to just take reading questions. Okay. May I post your chart on a LibGuide or within a syllabus? Yes. Just email us at info@adfontezmedia and we'll send you a licensed version for free. How does the investigator's personal bias affect their ability to rate well? Oh, we measure that. So we measure like a skew and an offset, like basically the propensity for a left-leaning person or a right-leaning person to rate certain sources higher or lower or more left or more right in comparison to the mean for the group. So, and we do actually make adjustments. Like we do that for our own ratings on our own chart. You know, without getting into the details too much, we don't do that for the student ratings because, you know, we don't publish them or use them in any way. They're just for you. You actually get to see them. Okay, how many coders or raters do you all incorporate into each iteration of the chart? So over the summer, we had about last summer we had 20 raters total, and each rater will rate you know, each article is rated by at least 3, 1 left, 1 center, 1 right. Sometimes we'll have an extra rater in there. And since we ended that like first big project, we've had 9 raters on our team ongoingly, and we rate a handful of new sources and an articles every week and every month. But we just some of you may have submitted applications, I'm not sure, but we put out a call for applications for new analysts a couple weeks ago, and we got lots and lots of responses because the people who are on our email list and the people who are on this phone call are like the best people in the whole world, and we got well over 100 applications for that. So we'll have approximately 24 to 30 new analysts here coming up soon to make a big ratings push. All right. Let's see, other questions. Okay. Price, the website, yep, that's all on our website. We've got it according to, you know, the number of students. Yeah, I'll just kind of go over what it is. Basically, if you're like a single teacher, single classroom, and you've got like 150 students or less, then we have monthly subscriptions, and it's roughly $40 per month. And we we offer like discounts if you purchase it for like a semester or a year. So essentially, you would get, yeah, you'd pay for 4 months and get 6 months, or you'd pay for like I think 10 months and get 12 months, or no, sorry, 4 months, 5 months. You, there's like a discount worked in there, and then we have this similar pricing if you've got like a department. The department is up to 1,000 students. And so if you've got, multiple folks at your school, up to 1,000 students, multiple potential teachers, coordinators using that can all use the system. It's $400 a month, and then we have, and then for our for whole schools, for up to 5,000 students, it's, I think, I should know this off the top of my head. I think it's $1,500 a month, but we have so it's tiered. Really, what it comes down to is less than $2 per student for for each student license you're able to use. Okie dokie. How young of students do you see using this program? It's tough to do this younger than, I'd say, honestly, 8th grade. 7th grade, like we say, 7 through 12, but the younger they are, the less political knowledge they have, right? That's just kind of the nature of things. So the 8th grade is kind of the youngest. When will we be choosing new analysts? Over the next few days. Let's set barrier of entry for you to add a new source. So we have limited resources right now as a company because we're still very small, and we have consumer memberships for $5 or $10 a month. You can have access to all the licensed copies of the media bias chart as they come out every single month, and we have a few other perks and benefits, and one of them is that you can vote on news sources that we add next month. So we currently add about 4 news sources every month, and we have a voting list of about 20. We usually get those suggestions just from people who email us and request those. That's how they get on our voting list. But then we pick the top 4 and have them rated. Since we're going to have a new slate of analysts over the next few months, we're going to dramatically expand the number of raters there. So let's see. Hopefully that answers that question. So we hope to have a lot more sources rated here in the next 2 months. Yay! But it's not free. That's just kind of the nature of things. Okay. How are the raters trained? Through lots of webinars and these videos, and we're the analyst training is it's ongoing. You certainly get better at it over time. Our analysts certainly have, and then in the future, I may offer it like as a adult continuing education course, so people can get trained themselves. But really, this webinar series over the next 6 weeks is going to train you how to be an analyst, essentially. All right, how do we overcome our personal bias in analyzing and rating articles from opposing political view or values? Surprisingly, you will get good at this, okay? At first, it will feel bad to your soul to read articles that you find very trashy and offensive from the political side of the aisle that you do not agree with. And that is that's one of the reasons why we do this. Like, people say, oh, I get my news from multiple sources, from all sides. You don't. People don't sit there and watch news sources that they hate, or read, like, they don't just like angrily read things because they're like, well, I've got to be informed. That just doesn't usually happen. It doesn't happen for your students either. So how students get their news is either by algorithm or by habit. Okay, by algorithm is the stuff that's presented to them. If they click on it, more stuff like that will show up to them, and that's unfortunately how it works. And then it silos people into these filter bubbles. I'm sure you've heard discussed. If they this is true not just for young students. This is true for college students and beyond, and for adults, right? If you're not getting news by algorithm, you're getting news by habit. So you may click on a few news sites every day, but it's usually not more than like 5 or 7 at the most. Okay, it's certainly not 100. You certainly don't read the same news article from 6 different sources or 8 different sources to determine like whether you've gotten really the whole scope of the story. That just doesn't happen. So we force people to do that in the system as a habit, so you can so you can start to discern like what is missing in the stuff that you're reading. So you gather like the whole universe of not just the facts, but the analysis about those facts and the opinions about those facts, and it really helps you, like after you get over the initial shock and disgust of, I can't believe the other side is saying that, then it really opens up your mind to understanding how other people think, and that's super valuable because it sharpens your own arguments and makes you realize why you believe what you believe. Okay. Yeah, so, the other thing about overcoming your personal bias, the rubric itself, the methodology itself, makes you get granular, and it's easy to be biased about something very general, and it's harder to be biased about something very specific. So what we found with our raters is, even though they're left, right, center, if people can and will and do argue all day on the Facebook page about how much CNN is terrible or great or whatever, and everyone's got their own different examples, but they're usually very, very general. But if you talk about one article and you say that this, a left-leaning person and a right-leaning person can look at the same left-leaning opinion article and say this is a left-leaning opinion article, or they can look at the same neutral fact reporting article and say this is a neutral fact reporting article. It won't be like miles apart between the raters. It just usually doesn't happen. It's kind of rare when you have outliers like that. Okay, let's see. Yes. Anyone younger than 13 will have a hard time with this. I agree. How do you calibrate with your raters? Yes, we do calibrate. I think I explained that a little bit earlier. All right. So you mentioned the student analyst emails are really just for us, but New York disclosed brand new law this month. How does this comply with that new law? I just read that law. Yay! I'm a lawyer, so I like reading laws, and that was sent to me as a question from somebody who is in New York State. Our privacy practices around emails are fully compliant with that law. I mean, we just don't use the emails for anything except for their logins. Okay. Any questions? Okay. I'm just reading here. We'll wrap up here in a second, but questions about 3 subjects, but they might be too complicated for the setting. Okay. Objectivity, here use of the term reality. Two-sidedness as a model for classifying viewpoints and narratives. You're going to have to email me that question, Jeff. Yeah, that is, those are long discussions. They get pretty philosophical. Happy to answer them and discuss on a future call. But if you've got any other questions, let me know by email. Oh, I've got our email address up here. Hold on. I have a slide for this because I knew going to get to questions. Ta-da. Okay. And, oh yeah. Nick, you reiterate your question. It might have gotten buried. Yes, Nick, what's your question?
Sure. So I just asked if you had just, anecdotally noted, I assume you rate alongside other folks, if you had noticed any sort of just like structural features in the articles that you're reviewing that are maybe predictive of the reliability of a source. I know you talked about like not wanting to use heuristics like a byline and stuff, but anything that's just come up that's potentially been interesting?
I mean, like things that regularly show up that are good indicators of reliability?
Or bad, I
or
would
bad
guess.
indicators?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've just sort of been trying to apply your methodology to a few examples, and some things that I've noticed for me that are helpful in sort of predicting like reliability is if a website links to an external website to sort of back up its claims. You know, this study or this article in the New York Times, and then they link to the New York Times. Whereas if they don't do that and they just say, you know, a ton of claims without any sort of sourcing, I'm a little bit more suspicious.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That can be tricky because misinformation has gotten really sophisticated and conspiracy theories have gotten really sophisticated. So, like, you know, I don't know if you've heard, I covered this conspiracy theory kind of in depth in another webinar, but like Bill Gates is trying, like he caused coronavirus and is like trying to vaccinate and control the world and kill everyone. Like that's the conspiracy theory, which just sounds ludicrous on its face. But when you investigate why those are plausible to some people, it's often because it does include embedded links to other things. Like it includes links to like the patent that they're referring to. They're saying, you know, Bill Gates owns a patent for coronavirus. It links to an actual patent, and that's confusing for people because they don't know what that patent means in the context of what the story says. You know, things like there's a blogger, Louise Mensch, who had a lot of like misinformation on her site for a while, and she would link to sources too, like she would link to Reuters. So like you can link to a reliable source, but if it's like a citation in law, like if the citation doesn't stand for the proposition that you're citing it for, the fact that there's like an external link doesn't really help. The thing that we found is, I think, the most predictive. So we have three metrics: veracity, expression, and headline and graphic. So whether the headline and graphic match the topic of the story is a really big predictor, and how the sentences are expressed. Like, are they expressed as factual statements? Are they expressed as analysis statements, like facts supporting conclusions? Or are they expressed as opinion statements, like just a bunch of conclusions one after the other? So even if you're unfamiliar with whether the underlying facts are true, like the veracity of them, the expression is a really good indicator, and we will go over that quite a bit in the next two sessions. All right. Well, thank you all so much. It was really wonderful being with you all tonight. I will see you next week. Take care. I'll post this recording. I'll post the links. Email me if you got any questions. All right. Bye. I will email out the link to everyone that's registered for these webinars. And I'll post it on our site under a tab called More Educator Materials. It's under our For Educators section. All right. Bye, all.